Hi, this is Bob Hatton, and it's still cold here in Germany, but I hope I've brought a message that will just warm your heart. So I said that, Joshua chapter 6, I lost my way yesterday and my theme going into a completely different way that I wanted to go. But anyway, we're back here, Joshua chapter 6. Joshua, he goes out of the camp. His first city that they have to take is Jericho. Jericho was one of the oldest, or still is one of the oldest cities in the world. It existed for thousands and thousands of years, and it sits in a very strategic place. It is the doorway to the Judean wilderness, but it's also the gateway to the Jordan Valley. And so Joshua has to take this city. This is a city that will be key. If he can't take this city, they won't really enter the land that God has promised them. And so I think he goes out of the camp, if I read that rightly, at the end of chapter 5 of Joshua. He goes out of the camp and he's looking at this city. And we know that the walls were fortified. They were big walls. They were thick walls. They were very, very fortified. They didn't have any airplanes. They didn't have any cannons in those days. How on earth are we going to take this city? And on the walls, there were big, strong, well-trained soldiers. How are we going to take this city? How on earth are we going to do it? And he was looking for a plan. He was looking for a strategy. And as he's thinking about this, as he's looking at the city, as he's looking at the thick walls, it's going to be impossible. Look at those soldiers on top of the walls. He noticed that there was a guy standing next to him. And this guy, he must have been like some kind of a soldier, because he's got a sword in his hand. And Joshua is a little bit afraid. And he says to him, who are you? Are you for us, or are you for our enemies? And this stranger who's just turned up, he says, neither. I'm not for you. I'm not for the enemy. But I have come to lead the army of the Lord. And Joshua realized who he was. He wasn't a person. I don't think he was an angel. I think this was God himself. And Joseph got down onto his knees and began to worship him. We find this in a number of places in the Old Testament. By Abraham, when he thought he was taking in 3 guests, but one of them was the Son of God. We see in Daniel, when Daniel's 3 friends, they put into the fiery oven, that when the king looks in there and wonders, why are they not dead? Why have they not burned? He counts not 3 people, but 4 people. And the 4th had the appearance like the Son of God. That's what the Bible tells us. So it was very dramatic that Joshua, he's breaking his head. He can't get his head around this problem. How are we going to take Jericho? And the Son of God, Jesus, is standing next to him, and he gives him a plan. He gives him a strategy which you wouldn't believe what he tells him to do. So he gets all the people together, and they're going to obey that, what this appearance, what Jesus has told him. And they get ready in a big long line, in a procession. Leading the procession are the priests with the Ark of the Covenant. And I suppose it's Sunday morning, and they begin to walk around this big city, and they walk around it at once. They're far enough away that the archers can't shoot the arrows at them, or the spears can't hit them, and they march around once, and they have not to say anything. In the book of Numbers, Moses said, "Come on now, guys, we're going into the promised land." They sent in spies, and the spies spied out the land, and Joshua and Caleb, they said, "Yeah, we can go and get the land." But the other 10 spies says, "Oh no, it's too difficult." And they created an atmosphere in the camp, and the people started to cry and to rebel and to speak negative. And so God says, "Well, I'm not going with them. So let them." So this time Joshua says, "Keep your mouth shut. We don't want any propaganda. We don't want you speaking to one another. We don't want you to speaking fear into the hearts of one another. So keep quiet." And on Sunday morning they marched around once. On the next day, Monday, they marched around once more. And Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And then we come to Saturday, the Sabbath. the seventh day. And on this day, they are to march around 7 times. Sabbath is the day when you don't work. It's the day when you just, it's not that you just stay in bed all day. It's the day when you can breathe and get a new breath of life into you. It's a time when you concentrate once more on God. And on this 7th day, after they've marched around 7 times, the priests blow into the trumpets, into the shofar horns, and all the people begin a shout of victory. And as they do that, the walls around Jericho, they start to shake and tremble. And as in the words of the song, and they come tumbling down, the walls fall down, and the city is destroyed. The people are killed, and they got a wonderful victory. Now, what do we learn about this for our everyday lives in the 21st century? We learn that God has given us a time of rest. The Sabbath is the time of rest. The book of Hebrews says he will lead you into another time of rest. It's when we stop trying to make things happen. It's when we realize that there is a time, there is a season for every purpose under heaven, and that God is working in our lives. And although we have responsibility and there are some things that we need to do, the responsibility is with God. And as I said last week, and I quoted it a number of times, Paul said, I am absolutely convinced that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it. God will complete it. God will do it. God's got a work that he's doing in you. So I just want to encourage you, come into his rest. Don't get all worked up and try to make things happen as Jacob always did. He was always trying to make things happen. He'd always got his work to do. I once read a book by a guy called Louis Palau about Joseph, the son of Jacob, and the book was called The Schemer and the Dreamer. And Joseph was always dreaming, but Jacob was always scheming. Don't scheme, but just lay back and just stay confident that God is working in your life. God bless you. Will you be with me tomorrow? I hope so. Bye-bye.